Everybody loves dads, stories, and the Marine Corps. What could be better than Marine Corps dads who tell stories? Here's another story with veteran storyteller John Sugar Jr., a Marine Corps dad.
For the booby one?
It is not. Tonight, we're going to tell the story of Boldilocks and the Three Bears.
Boldilocks?
Once upon a time, there was a little girl, and her name was Boldilocks. And no one had ever taught this little girl any kind of manners. Off in the woods, there was a cabin. Within this cabin lived the Three Bears. Everybody knew the Three Bears. They were the only bears in the forest living in a cabin. While other bears lived in caves and walked around in the forest, the bears had their own cabin with bowls and chairs and beds and rooms and everything that bears don't usually have. So everyone knew them. Well, one day, Mama Bear made the other two bears and herself some porridge. And she brought the porridge out. Now Mama Bear made this porridge very strangely. She put it into the Papa Bear's bowl. And Papa Bear said, "This is too hot." She put it into her bowl. And she said, "This is too cold." And she put it into the baby bear's bowl. And the baby bear said, "This is just right." And Papa Bear said,
"I don't care. We're going to go walking until my porridge is ready."
And so the Papa Bear took the other bears, and they all went for a walk in the forest. Well, along came Boldilocks, and what does she do? Yep, breaking and entering and trespassing on private property. Boldilocks comes to the door and opens it. Doesn't knock, don't do nothing. She just opens the door and walks in. She walks right up to the table, and she sees 3 bowls of porridge on the table. So she goes to the biggest bowl, because she's Boldilocks. And she takes a bite from the big bowl, and she says,
"This is too hot."
And then she goes to the Mama Bear's bowl, and she goes, "This is too cold." Then she goes to the Baby Bear's bowl, and she said, "This is just right!" And she ate all the porridge up in the bowl. Then, with her tummy being all full, she decided to go and sit down. So the first place she sat was the biggest chair she could find. It was Papa Bear's chair. And she sat down in the Papa Bear chair. But she couldn't get comfortable. She was like,
"This chair's too hard. It doesn't have enough lumbar support."
So she went to another chair. And somehow all this stuff is changing Boldilocks' voice. And she goes to the Mama Bear's chair. And she sits down and disappears in all the pillows that are on the Mama Bear's chair. Because Mama Bear loves Pier 21 and just buys pillows nonstop. Like constant boxes of pillows coming in. And Boldilocks began to sink. And he was like, "Help me!" And Boldilocks said, "This is too soft. And too many pillows. Oh my goodness, how many pillows does one woman need?" And so she got out of the chair somehow. She fired a grappling hook. Goes into the ceiling. And Boldilocks comes out. And just Batmans onto the floor. And then she goes over to the next chair. And it was Baby Bear's chair. And it was a real little tiny chair. And she sat down in the chair and went, "This was just right!" She just stayed in the chair for a while. Checked her phone. Checked Facebook. And then she decided she wanted to take a nap. Now, if I was Boldilocks and I was looking around, I would perhaps note all of the bear paraphernalia scattered about the room. The giant claws. The claw sharpening apparatus. All of the things that said, "Hey, Boldilocks, bears live here." But no, she did not do this. She decided she wanted to take a nap in the bear's house. So she goes into the bear's room. And first, she comes up to the biggest bed there. And she jumps up to fall on the bed. Oh! Because it was rock hard. And so she lay on the bed going... And she said,
This bed's too hard.
And she went to the next bed. Now, for some reason, Papa and Mama Bear had different beds. Probably having problems. And so she jumped into Mama Bear's bed. And she disappeared. Because as many pillows were in the Mama Bed's chair were ridiculously so in Mama Bear's bed. There was about 8 solid feet of pillows that Goldilocks just vanished. So she began to scream. And she saw the rest of the victims who tried to go into Mama Bear's bed. I'm kidding. So she pulls out her trusty grappling hook. Batman's onto the floor. And she goes up to the next bed. And she looked at it. And she said, "This was just right!" And she laid down upon Baby Bear's bed and went to sleep. And then Papa Bear opened the door. And he said,
Didn't you close the door when we left? I'm not paying to air condition the whole forest.
And Mama Bear said, "Yes, of course I did." So they go inside. And they sit down to their porridge. And Papa Bear looks at his porridge. And he says,
This is too cold now.
and Mama Bear said, "Well, you wanted to take a walk." And Baby Bear said, "My porridge is so good!" And they went, someone broke in and stole Baby Bear's porridge. This is called having beef. I got beef with somebody. And so they went into the next room and they saw their chairs. And Papa Bear looked at his chair and said,
Someone sat in my chair.
And everyone's like, "How can you tell?" Mama Bear looked at her chair. And the pillows were messed up. And she knows when her pillows are messed up. And so Baby Bear said, "Someone was sitting in my chair! There's nothing secret!" So then they heard... And they went into the next room. And Papa Bear said,
Someone's been...
and then Mama Bear said, "Someone is obviously sleeping in the Baby Bear's bed." So they went over to the bed where Boldilocks was sleeping. And they looked down at Boldilocks. And they ate her. Because she was breaking and entering in a bear's house. And Baby Bear said, "Not in my bed!" And Mama Bear's like, "Oh, now I gotta clean that. There we go. I'm just gonna go ahead and clean it now." And that was the end of Boldilocks. And she never broke into another bear's house again. And the bears had to move. Because Boldilocks went missing.
Why?
Because they ate her.
Why did they need to move?
Because the police went around looking for Boldilocks and she'd been eaten. The end.
Another story.
No.
That was another story with John Sugar Jr., a Marine Corps dad. Check the show notes for links to his Patreon and website at creativegrumbles.com.